Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Tyler Coates, also known as Sawcruteez, your co-host of the Honest Analysts live stream. I'm here joined with Fibbo Swanee today, who's just giving me a quick overview of the charts that he's got to share. So it sounds like this recent action has been important for his stuff, and he potentially had a threshold break, which would signal an entry for him, as we have been following this range and seeing if support would hold, and trying to remain patient as price danced around in a bit of a no man's land, at least for me, and then getting a nice reaction there before getting stopped out myself. So that's good to see so far, and we'll be looking forward to diving into some charts myself. Looks like Joe must be running a little bit late, so hopefully he'll be able to hop on before we're done and share his analysis on the short-term time frames as well. So with that being said, how are you doing today, Mr. Fibbo?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. Like I was saying earlier, I've been just working and playing disc golf. That's what I've been enjoying doing in the last couple of weeks. Actually a couple of months. The lockdown when it first started, that's all I was doing was disc golf because it was the only place you could go. So I kind of got the bug, and that's what I kind of been doing, and got a little bit of a signal the other day, so I'm back trading long on the. I mean, I've always been long, but I added longs to the whole threshold deal that I've been following for a while. So far this week's been looking pretty good.
Beautiful. That's what I like to hear. And yeah, we were kind of both looking at last week around 10.4-ish as being a very critical level that if that didn't hold, we were both going to be probably, well, I was going to be getting stopped out, and that probably would have been before you would have gotten your signal to enter. So I do think that this recent reaction that we've gotten through 10.5 and up back above 11 has been very important, and this is going to be the time where it really needs to follow through as far as I'm concerned. So it'll be interesting to see what you're looking at, and if with that being said, you want to go ahead and dive into some charts.
Yep. Yeah, I'm disabled. Can you please add me as a participant?
You got it. All right.
I got to say please, or you won't do it.
That's right. I got to make sure you're on top of your manners.
All right. Let's see. Let me get the right chart here. Why isn't it showing up? Oh, there it is. All right. I think I got it. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna start out with the 4 hour because that's what I get a lot of questions about. Because as I was just talking with you, I wait for a lot of daily signals, so a lot of people are probably getting a little bored waiting for me to get a signal. So they always ask questions on the 4 hour because a lot of those candles come a little quicker. But 4 hour. The other day, if you would have bought the 4 hour on the signal. It was going to be just above this trend line. Third day above it was right around here. So you would have been buying right around 10.8 or so. Because what happened down in here, the RSI popped up into the bullish zone right here. And then also the ADX was increasing. So all of that happening at that time. If you would have bought it at 10.8, you'd still be in it because like Saul just said, it never really got down back below that 10.4-ish or 10 area or 10.3 or any of those areas that we were looking at. It's kind of stayed above this trend line and has went up ever since. The couple of things I was looking at was when it started to make a new high above this previous high at 10.9 and it broke this candle to the upside right here. One of the first places I was going to look was the this 127 to 141, which is right around 11 flat, 11.1, like right around that spot. And we consolidated a little bit. And typically that would be your first spot of a possible reversal. So if this came up on this leg right here, that's where the selling interest should start to come in. But as you can see, it consolidated a little bit. And then we just had a huge green candle that kind of busted up through that level. And then it also moved up all the way through the next level that I would look at was this previous high here at 10.9, which was another threshold area. This 10.9 was 100% level. So when you take the extension off of that, I marked it in a, kind of this red zone here. It was between 11.2 and 11.3. And this red zone, it popped up through there. So if you kind of draw this all the way through here, this is that zone of support that I was looking for. That because once this kind of bought, I'll show you on the daily where I actually bought. But if you were still long on here and this consolidated, busted through, you would have been back. You would have been already above this possible reversal spot. And as it came back above this level, as you can see, every time it came down in here, you found some buying interest. And even when it dipped down just below it, just a little bit right in this area with these candles, if you would have saw down here, the RSI wasn't even anywhere close of breaking out of the bullish zone. It was touching the edge of that bearish zone from before, but it really needs to break out below this and get back into the red zone like it does back in these other areas. So right now that whole 11.1, 11.2 area right now is a pretty good support spot. And of course we popped up and then we would trade it back down and we found that support again a couple more times. And now we broke back up again. So everything on the 4 hour is looking pretty good. We're still in the bull zone. ADX is still climbing for the bulls. So anytime you've seen these dips, you're finding some buying interest there. A couple other things I had on here, just looking at it like a quick little flag pattern, like this one right here, and it consolidated and then it popped back up. So this whole pattern right in here was a pattern, and now what it was is this flag objective, which was resistance right at the bottom here, was now support. So that even adds another little thing to it. I mean, you could probably look at another pattern here where if you bring up just a quick, like if you take this whole area right in here, you might even want to go all the way up to here possibly, but even if you went to here and then pulled it down to right at this point and say this was a flag pattern, I actually like this one a little better, because then this one looks like a little bit of a pennant to this point. So if it's on this breakout, the 61.8% level is at about 11.9 or so, and then if it goes to the whole deal, then you're looking up at around 12.3. So right now that could be in play. I'm just going to follow the support here, and as long as everything is kind of continuing to the upside, even the break of a small little trend line that we have right here, just from the high there, and then this high, and then it broke right here. You can just take a little bit of a measurement off of this, and the break point right there, you're looking at 11.8 as a possibility. So anywhere 11.8, 11.9, I think that's where I think we could be headed on this movement to the upside. And then of course that support down here at 11.1 is going to be a pretty significant spot to watch on this 4 hour. So, but if you're in at the 10.8, you can set your stops below 11.1 if you want and still make some profit while you're letting this thing run to the upside. I didn't trade the 4 hour, but that's what I'm kind of looking at it on here. So if you got in, you got in a little earlier than what I did on my daily. So that's what I'm looking at the moment on the 4 hour. And then moving over to the daily, this is where I got here. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. There's a lot on here, but the threshold right here finally broke up above the bull zone right at this point. The ADX was increasing right here, and then and what I really liked was there's a whole bunch of Fibonacci's on here. Let's just we'll take a step back and look at all these because there's a lot of them on here. Let's take a step back to the beginning of this one where you had the 100% here on this threshold to the downside. And then on the low right here, you had the 38.2% at around 10.6. And I'm looking at the red one. And then the 61.8%, the red one right here was at 11.1. So that 61.8% held from this high to this low off of that threshold move. And then it worked its way back down right here and never made the new low. And this is right where, Tyler and I were talking about last week, was that bullishness of that break of this RSI. That's going to be that first signal of a possible bull structure. So if you want to get in really early, that's what Tyler was talking about last week. And then if you look at the blue from this high to this low, the 61.8% level was right around in here. And as you can see, it had a lot of resistance. And then it finally broke to the upside here. And then it broke this 100% at 11.1. At the time it broke this trend line. So the signal for this threshold for me is right at this point, right at the start of this one right here. And as it came back up, it right at this point is where I would start the threshold. And it's all based on when this crossed and then the ADX actually went positive on a period over period. That's right where the start is, right at this point. So first level I was looking at was, if you look at this 100% on the blue at 11.1, that first resistance zone is going to be 11.4 to 11.6, which is the 127 to 144 extension off of this high. And as you can see, it kind of went up into this area and it kind of sold off a little bit. So you had that first area of resistance, and then we came back down, and now we're kind of popping back up because now once you've done that and you're starting to come back down the other side, the start of my Fibonacci threshold right here is right around 10.8 or so, and then you work your way up to the high that we've seen so far, which is at 11.7. So right now the shallow fib support is at 11.388. And yeah, it's wicked down a few times, but we have not closed under this level. So to me on the daily, this is a key level to watch for support. My buy was on the third day here. I was trying to scale in if it came back down. My first buy was around 11.350-ish or so. And then I had some orders in at 11.2, 11.1. Then the next couple of days, I just bought a little bit more. I'm fully bought now. It never dipped down into my 11.2 or 1 area that I wanted, but I think my average right now is about 11.380, I believe, from all this movement over the last few days. So right now, my main level is this one to watch for the fib. The 11.1 is the 61.8% level, which really is another buying area for me. If it dips down in there and everything looks good, like it's going to stay in the bull zone, and the ADX is still increasing for price, for a trend and keeping that strength, I'll probably buy a little bit more on dips. I'm comfortable and content with what I've bought so far, but if it comes down in here and it looks like it gets down to this 11.1 to 11K area, I might buy a little more. But ultimately, the stop for me is going to be almost really I'm going to wait for it to go all the way down to this extension to about 10.4, because for me, if it starts to really break this bullish trend line and we get 3 days closes under it, or it closes underneath this 10.4, that's when I'll probably be placing some stops or getting out of some of it, that kind of stuff. But for now, I don't need to really be concerned with it because everything at the moment looks pretty promising. And so what I'm looking for is a dip here after this first resistance. And then I think we're going to kind of bust out to the upside here. And then that second resistance, well, first we got that 11.9, which is that level that we kind of talked about on the 4 hour over here on a couple of these targets, was around that 11.9. So when you look at this right here, the 11.9 is the previous high or the previous threshold point for me. So when this pops up to 11.9, we would move this up to this point, and then the fib would be about 11.5, and then maybe a dip down into 11.5, and then a move up into that second resistance zone between 12.4 and 12.7. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I ultimately think this is a move to watch now that we broke this level and this long bullish trend line here, to watch as a guide of support as we go forward. I think our target is really going to be that previous high of 13.8 that we've been wanting. I like the way this is structured up for that. And also, if you take the distance off of this move on the break of this latest trend line, and take it to the break point. Break point's going to put you right around 13.4. So anywhere between 13.4, 13.8. I think if it gets to 13.4, I think most likely 13.8 is going to get tested if we get up in there. So I don't. This is a minimum target of 13.4. So I think 13.8 is ultimately where we're headed over time here. I don't think it's going to happen in the next half hour. I know everybody keeps asking me, is it going to get there? Is it going to get there? I think it's going to. I think it might take a little time. I think everybody wants it to happen by next Wednesday. Everybody's like, I want to get there. But I'm just going to ride this trend until it tells me otherwise. And right now, I think it looks pretty good. And I just like the way the structure is kind of holding here. And the fib supports are holding at the 11.3 area. And I like it. So I'm going to kind of hold my longs until all these indicators tell me that it's not holding anymore. So that's what I'm kind of looking at.
Doing what you, doing what you do best. That's what I like to see. Letting the trend determine the way that you want to be positioned and holding on until that trend changes. So I think that hopefully people that have been able to watch over the last couple of weeks have been able to get a little better feel for what it's like to trade on higher time frames. I think that a lot of people in crypto have their heads just so stuck in like a 5 and 15-minute chart that they aren't able to really see the forest for the trees. And what we have kind of experienced in weeks of liminal space and having to wait and be patient, and maybe seeing some signals on the lower time frames that you're not taking because you're waiting for that daily signal. And the biggest thing that I think viewers can take away is the patience that you have demonstrated. And I know the feeling myself, and I know a lot of people will feel like buying up here doesn't make any sense. Like, why didn't you buy down at 10,000? Why would you be buying at 11.5 instead of 10? And that's where I think a lot of people go wrong, is feeling like if they missed the rock bottom price, then they missed the dip or they missed the opportunity.
Yeah. No, it looks good now if you would have bought there. But what if we did buy and it did break down like it looked like it could have, and then you'd be kicking yourself. So I was just being a little bit more conservative and just really waiting for a little bit more higher probability trade. That's really, I'm a lot more comfortable buying at 11.3 and with a target of 12K or maybe even higher to 13.8. I'd rather buy there than buy at 10.8 and this thing fall out of bed, and next thing you know, I lose $1,000, that kind of thing. So I was just waiting for a little bit more conservative, and really it kind of comes back to the last time we went into a bull structure. It looks very similar. I actually think, even though haven't really rallied as quickly as these next few, well, actually we're not even there yet. We had 3 days up and a little red candle here. And then we had a couple more days, and then we had a really strong to the upside day. So we had 3 days and then a red candle, but then we had this doji right here. So had a little bit of indecision right at this point, but now we got a little bit of a green candle today. So the way this was structured here, you got the moving averages kind of moving up. You got the index or the ADX moving up. You got the move into the bull zone. It looks very similar. You got the moving averages kicking. You got, everything looks very stable. Not that it can't fall out of bed, but it's looking very similar to what happened last time. So if this kind of continues and we get some more buying interest and we kick this thing to the upside, I'll be much more content buying at 11.3, knowing that is a possibility there versus buying a little earlier. The reason I didn't buy a little earlier in the 4 hours because I had my money tied up in a couple other things at the time. We were kind of talking about that, and I was trading some other things, and so my dry powder was a little low. So that could be another reason why I was waiting for the daily signal, because I really wanted to get some other things kind of in and out before I bought bigger on the daily. So my buys on the daily thresholds are my largest buys, and they're my long-term holds. And so far, there hasn't been a strong enough crash on any of these thresholds to the downside to get me out of my longs. So really my 11.3 is just adding to the ones that I've done in the past. And I'm just kind of pressing my bet. It's like putting $10 on number 8 and trying to roll on the craps table. And all of a sudden I'm putting $20 on 8. Come on, 8. I need the 8. So I'm just kind of pressing my gains as we go forward. And I was just waiting for a very strong conservative move to add more to do that. And that's what I was kind of playing with at that. I mean, over the last couple of days. So that's it. That's what I got.
Beautiful. We'll go ahead and share what I'm looking at. I think
let me
are
stop share. There we go.
looking at some similar numbers, so that's always good to see. We'll start with the 4-hour chart here. A couple things that I want to look at. We did get this storm on the 4-hour, which is a indication of exhaustion of a time where the trend should at least reverse for some sort of at least a head fake reversal, if not a full-on breaking down the trend. And when we were in here, I mentioned that I wasn't too concerned with the storm anymore because we had this deep correction into the ocean. When we get a storm that occurs after a big move, like here, we had the, or up here, where you have the big move and then the storm, big move, and then without any real deep correction, that's telling us that we should get up to here for some sort of head fake or maybe a full move to the upside. So this is very different for me, being that we got this deep correction that was, let's see here.
What's the date on that correction?
That was September 8th was the low.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was looking at the right low on stuff. So September 8th. All right. I got you. So, it's when it dipped down to around 9,800.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So right when we made that move down, this was a 20% correction after the move up that came, back down, even went below the 61.8 level that I had in right here. So we dip all the way down into this ocean close to the local lows. And as that happened, we did get some good support from the buoy here that ended up leading us back out of the ocean and turning that into support. So being that this storm has been here after this deep correction, has really not made me think that it is going to be nearly as likely to lead to a reversal as it would have been if it, say, occurred somewhere up in here before this deep correction. So that is a main reason why I haven't been too concerned with this storm, and I have been liking what I've been seeing ever since we came down into the ocean. This is the critical level that needs to be held by the bulls, and they stepped up and did a great job, and then turned it into support where you have resistance here, and you turn that level into support. This was where I was starting to get concerned because we kept failing to get the golden cross. We would come up and reject the 200. We kept rejecting it and kept rejecting it. And that was where I'm starting to worry that if we can't reclaim this level as support and get a golden cross, well, then we're really in danger of falling out of bed, like Fibbo was talking about. So not only were we able to reclaim this level, we've gone ahead and reclaimed that next level that we have been kind of keeping our eye on as we had this support turn into resistance here right on the 61.8% retracement level here. So that was that critical level that we were looking at, where this could be just a dead cat bounce that then continues to just move down off of something like that. So that was definitely a critical area of resistance, but when it failed to lead to new lows, you hit the critical resistance, but the reaction created a higher low. And then here is again where it starts to get worrisome. Are we creating a lower high and then going on to make another lower low potentially? And when this level held strong and led to a breakthrough of this level, now we are back above that 61.8% and turning it into support. And this is where I think it's critical for us to follow through for a couple of reasons. First of all is going to be maintaining this structure of higher highs and higher lows, where if this can consolidate above 11.2 and hold above 11.2, then it's really going to be in a strong position to get that next move to the upside. So potentially could be drawn in a trend line here off of these lows, and looking at if this does take a few days, maybe even a week or more to get going, the trend line intersects with the horizontal on October 30th. So that would be 2 weeks away. If we did happen to continue to dance around, I would think that this would be a very good opportunity to enter. Anytime that you have a trend line that intersects with the horizontal, that is a confluence of support that makes each a little bit better, a little bit more reliable when they're in agreement with each other, kind of like
and that's right around 11.1, right?
That is, yep, 11.160.
Okay.
So right about where you're looking at having some.
Yeah, my 61.8% of my threshold is 11.178, so it's pretty daggone close.
Yep, pretty darn close. All right, great. So yeah, I was just looking at right here where we had this trend line that could be drawn in off of the higher lows, and this horizontal that was resistance, and as it was turning into support, when these thresholds intersected, that was a good time to get in before that move. So that's kind of what I'd be thinking about if we did come over here and we're testing on 11.2 here in about 2 weeks. That's something that I will certainly be paying attention to. And as we have now broken through what I think is the critical level, this is where if bears were going to maintain control, they had to keep price under this level. And now that it's back above that level, that's a very critical move and potentially could cause for the acceleration to increase. And if we don't come over here to test this, I would be looking to draw in a new trend line off of lows, whatever. If we do end up making new highs above here without coming down here, that's when I'd start to look for some sort of hyperwave fractal type of situation where you get the accelerating trend lines, and that trend lines will tend to accelerate when you break through a critical boundary like I think that this was. And the next level would probably be these highs right in here. That would be the critical spot, so that if this didn't happen and instead we found support sooner and took off, I would think that maybe getting through 12 would be the spot where it makes that last acceleration up to the 13.9 area that has been the target for a while now. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at here. I think everything is looking good, and I would sure like to see it follow through and accelerate this trend line. But if it doesn't, then I'm just going to need to see it maintain above 11.5 for a couple weeks, and that would also put it in a strong spot as well. So let's take a quick look at why 13.9 has been such an important number. One thing that I'm going to pull up first was the first area of resistance that EMASAR was showing, and it just highlighted it absolutely perfectly, which is so amazing to see. The old marker here, this horizontal at 11.720, 11.730 or so, was the level that I outlined a couple days ago in chat groups, saying that this marker is the primary level of horizontal resistance to watch out for before expecting these highs to get taken out. So that's where I would be definitely concerned that if this resistance from that horizontal marker does hold and pushes us back below 10.8, that's going to start to really change some things for me. So I'm liking what I'm seeing, but this is one of those spots where I think it needs to follow through, or some things could change pretty quickly. So if we do get through that level, then the next target would be the last marker above the price. And here we go. So 13.1.5 is going to be the next horizontal marker that would be overhead if we did break through this one at 11.73. Would be paying close attention to that 13.17, and then also be looking at a higher time frame fib. If we just draw it from the high to the low, we see that 13.6 is going to be where the 61.8% level is, and that's going to be my target when we break through 38.2 and hold it as support on a throwback. The target for me then becomes the 61.8% retracement.
What is the price? What is it? Is that the 13.8?
It's 13.6.
Okay.
Drawn from this high to this low. So right there, very near 13.8. And what I expect in bull markets is basically like what we saw here. In a real strong bear trend, when we get up to this key level, there should be a bunch of sellers fighting over that. And if they're really in control, you would see something like this, where it just comes up and immediately gets a strong reaction back down. Whereas here, instead of there being an immediate reaction off of the level of resistance, we got up, peaked through, and support moved up, and then we grinded away and broke through. So basically, what I would expect is to break through the level before coming back to consolidate it. So if we're going to reject a level of resistance, I would expect it to do something like this. Whereas if we're actually ready to break through a level of resistance in a bull market, then the liquidity that is here should get eaten up by the bulls on the way up, and then support should move up such that they can't get their they can't get back in, or maybe they just get a couple little chances. So that's where there's some trend lines that we can be drawn in. I kind of like this one. It's a little bit weird, but it's a good fit off of this low to this low, to that consolidation to now this low. So potentially we could be looking to build off of this trend line, and maybe more something like that. Both would be obviously great options. And see here, one other trend line that I have been paying close attention to that did turn out to come into play on that last move down, and that's just a bit of a kind of curved trend line that we've been talking about on this show, and I've been posting on Twitter and whatnot. Seems to be the best fit trend line for me right now, something along these lines, where we are moving up, but the trend lines are kind of not really holding at that angular level, and it does line up pretty nicely with if we were to turn it into some sort of channel like so. That will be the kind of bearish and bullish trend lines that I will be keeping my eye on, and that was something that we were looking at a potential move of if we do kind of move to the top of this threshold here, depending how we have it drawn in, going to be up around 13.3-ish. So that would be where I kind of look at the rate that the price is currently moving at and just draw a line straight through the median of this rise over run and connect it to the top threshold to give me a price and a time target. So this is suggesting something like 13.2.5 by October 27th. Which would suggest that potentially the trend line is going to accelerate. And let's see.
The price. What was the price again?
13.2.5.
Okay. Okay.
And that makes me think that potentially this will be a new accelerating trend line here. And we see that it does seem like it's trying to at least move at a different angle than this consolidation sideways grind. So we'll definitely be paying attention to that and expecting a move back to kind of the top of the channel after we found support from the bottom. So I believe that that is everything that I was wanting to go over. I think you already touched on this possible guy where we are now, now that the shallow fib has broken to the downside, here we're drawing it bearish with 38.2, 61.8%. But once it breaks through this level, that's where I'll start drawing it bullish off of the recent lows. So now the shorter term bear fib has turned bullish. So now I will be using this low and this high to draw in the new one. And we do see that that 38.2 is holding very nicely. And that is definitely what I want to see. If that 38.2 does give, then I would be looking for a move to 61.8, kind of the inverse of the bullish move that I'll be looking at after we broke 38.2. If it breaks down this, I'd be looking to a move here, which again would potentially line up nicely with a trend line. So as it stands, I think that we're in a good position to continue and keep moving. And I'm still looking at above 13.5 being the next good spot to take profit. And anything above 13.6 is going to tell me that we're grinding through that liquidity that's waiting to sell, and that would suggest that the bulls are maintaining control even at higher prices. And one of the best ways to follow that in the short term will be the shallow fib. If this level does give, if we break down 11,000 and we break down this shallow 61.8, and then we break down this trend line, that changes everything. So while I am confident in this continuing to the upside, I will lose all of that confidence if we fall below 10.9.5, say below this trend line and below this fib. That would change everything. Until then, I would say that this is the shallow fib buy zone is going to be the 38.2 to 61.8% level. So as long as that continues to hold, then the structure remains intact, and I would expect the price to continue to go to the upside. So yeah, I guess I'll just finish. I don't think I've updated anything about my position since last time. I was stopped out on like 15% of my position. It would have been right here on this guy. And then I re-entered right in here when we were talking about this maybe being some sort of broadening situation, but it wasn't as far as I was concerned. We broke through this high and we broke through a broadening kind of trend line. So here was where my signal was to re-enter what was stopped out right here. So I just basically put that back in somewhere right in here, and then had all my stops layered right here so that it was very, I never like having stops this close to the price, and it's nice now that that has moved away, but it's still time to pay very close attention and be ready to trail stops and front run the hard stops that were set. So that is yep, everything that I am looking at.
I got a couple of things to show real quick.
Great.
Before we get off.
Let's see. Stop share is.
I like to bring up. This has always been my fun chart that I've been looking at for a while. This is monthly. You guys have probably seen this one before. We've been watching the timing of these lows matching up, and then finally breaking this trend line right here at this point. And then all the fibs are in here too. So the high here at 13.8 all the way down to the low at 38 or 3,800.
You're not sharing.
Oh, it's not sharing?
No.
That's weird. How about now?
Yep.
All right. Here's the timing of the lows on this monthly chart. And then we broke this trend line to the upside right here. So the interesting thing for me is this just taking the high and low, the 13.8 down to the 3,800, the 61.8% level is right there about 10K, just above 10,000. It broke this trend line on a really nice long monthly candle, and it had another green candle, but then we had a little bit of a throwback to almost to the break point, which was right around that 10K that everybody was freaking out about, and then we bounced up from there. So that nice little wick from that bounce on that third month. And now we're green again. So to me, 3 closes above this trend line is a nice long-term look to say for at least a minimum, the 10K should hold, and the minimum would be a full retracement back to the previous high, which is at 13.8 we've been talking about. So we do have that kind of move to look toward. But one of the things I like to do is take the furthest point from a trend line, and if you take that distance, that gives me a target of 22. So if this holds out in the way, if this holds out and we continue a nice bullish trend to the upside, I would say that we should see 22K before we break 10K. Put it that way. As long as all the patterns hold out, but I mean, right now 10K acted really strong, and held out there and bounced from there. So this is always kind of a fun chart. I mean, it's extremely long term, but just something to watch would be, we've been kind of drawing these trend lines in, maybe something along these lines, somewhere right around there or something. Nothing's really
How about you do that trend line, but you connect the low to the time of where that bubble ends with that target you have. You see what I mean? I'm wondering that those bubbles on the bottom highlighted some lows. So what about this next bubble being that high? Yeah, right there. So June 1st.
Well, this would be the next low. This is the timing of the lows.
Okay.
So yeah, because each one of these is the low right here.
Okay.
The low, and then this one would be a low. But where is that low? You know what I mean? So this would be a timing of a low. So I would say, I drew this trend line in. I mean, this is probably the one with the most hits at the moment. So this could be something to watch for. But the thing is like, I don't know where that low could be. Like, so in other words, this could work its way up to 13.8 or so, and then come back down and then make a low, and then work its way back up. Right. So I don't know where that low is, or if the 10K breaks down, then the low is going to be, way down here into areas we don't want to talk about. So right now with the 10K holding like it has, I do like that as a really, really nice strong floor going forward on this monthly, and especially how it reacted off of it, and work our way up. So sometime between now and this low right here could be a possibility of at least getting to 13.8. That would be the minimum. If everything starts going nuts and getting all ballistic, the next couple of levels would be the extension off that low or off that high, which is at 16.6 to 18,000, and that could be a spot where it could come up if it gets kind of crazy, and then come back down of June of next year, and maybe 13.8 becomes support, and then after that, and then we can go up and maybe hit that 22 later on. I don't know. I mean, this is completely speculation, but I just like the way this is. I just like the way it broke this trend line, and when it came back down and held this 10K and didn't break that back down below the break point, that was pretty significant on a month over month basis. I like the way that reacted, and then the next month didn't even make a new low, or at least the month that we're in so far. And right now that low has been what, 10.3. That's why I was kind of talking about. If it got back down to that 10.4 again, I'd probably be a little nervous if this started to turn red this month and starts to break to the downside. But right now it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, because when you look at the weekly on my threshold here, the start of this threshold to the high, I mean, right now there hasn't been 3 closes underneath 10.5 on the weekly. It's wicked down a couple of times, but no 3 settlements underneath on the weekly here. And we've been in the bullish zone ever since, and the ADX is still looking pretty good. So getting the signal on the daily now, with the weekly still staying pretty good to the upside, and having this crazy monthly chart, I kind of like the long-term aspect of Bitcoin here as we're moving. But of course, have those 10.4 stops, and if we break it back down below 10.4 and this thing falls out of bed, then back to the drawing board. But right now it seems like it's holding up pretty good. So
I agree. And thanks.
Yeah, this is a fun chart. I've been following this chart for so long, so it's kind of fun to finally, when it broke the trend line for the first time, I was like, oh, this is getting kind of interesting. But now it's getting really interesting because it held that 10K right on that third month, and that's the throwback. Because a lot of times we're looking for 3 settlements over a trend line, or whatever time frame I'm looking at. So for this to come up, and if you're looking at a daily and it breaks a trend line, it's maybe that 3rd or 4th day you start to see that throwback to the, you get that initial pump, everybody sells off and takes some profit, and then it comes back down to that break point, and then the psychology is everyone that was long the first time gets back in, and everyone that missed out the first time gets back in, and then it starts kicking back up, and you get that extra pump from the second hit of that movement. And since it kind of reacted that way on a month over month basis, so that 3rd month in, and it held that 10K and it popped up, that to me, if I was trading really, really long term, and maybe something that you'd want to buy and put in for, cold storage or something, or who knows what, that would be a good spot to buy and keep that 10K as a stop area on there. So I don't know. It's interesting. I've been kind of keeping an eye on it. So if it goes to 22, I know I'll be with you partying at our all-time high party somewhere, or we'll be out there wherever. But that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. So let's get this thing to 22K so we can get this thing going.
Most is getting to party.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
But I like the support that we're seeing in a lot of this stuff. So I just want to show that real quick.
I appreciate it, and I'm glad to hear that your target is our party. All right. Well, unfortunately, Joe isn't going to be able to join us today. It looks like we have taken up pretty much the whole hour ourselves anyways. So that'll be great to get his input next time around. But for the meantime, it was definitely good to get the update from Fibbo and what he's been doing, what he's been seeing. And that always helps me to get a better understanding of how I implement some of the tools that he's been teaching. So thank you very much for your time today, and Bitcoin to the moon.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Peace out.